present Constitution was made for no other reason than that nationality had been so smothered under restriction that it could not exist. That Constitution conferred full power to protect nationality against encroachments by the states. The present attack of advocates of state rights should be met in the spirit of comprehension and unyielding nationality. So this is 1868, the 40th Congress. The present Constitution was made for no other reason than that nationality had been so smothered under restriction that it could not exist. The Constitution conferred full power to protect nationality against encroachments by the state. Now I'm going to go through and read the Reconstruction debate with Mr. Drake, who was speaking of directly the Constitution connecting to nationality. I've never seen that before in my studies or any other studies. I put this up yesterday, but it has words, so people don't want to read. They look right over it, so I'm going to read this to you. The only time people are getting the message is if it's an image, a sign, or a symbol. They're not wanting to read. After alluding to the associations connected with the name of American citizen, name honored and reverenced everywhere but where it should be most, in the Republic itself. Remember, Ali said enforce the Constitution, and that's a Republican form of government. He also knew this Constitution was connected to nationality. He referred to the former friends of the Republican Party who had assumed the garb of traitors and joined the North and South with whom that party was now struggling, and said his purpose was to contest every inch of the ground with the foes of his country's prosperity and glory, whether open-faced rebels or half-masked Democrats, because we know that in the U.S. War Manual, Democrat is a mobocracy. One said the same in spirit. His voice was still for war against them. There could be no peace between them and patriots. The democracy had crept back from its hole, warmed into life by one who had betrayed his trust, and now opposed every act of the upholders of the Union as unconstitutional, and supported everything calculated to sap the base of nationality. The Northern Democrats were only another variety of rebels. When the day of their triumph came, if come it did, would they not pluck the national goose together? It seemed to be denied nearly 2 years after the roar of the battle that had died away that this is a nation. The only safe haven of the country was in nationality. For 94 years, the people have been one people, not 13-7 different peoples. State sovereignty had been the cause of the revolution of 98 in Virginia and 99 in Kentucky. He had hoped that dogma had been riven in twain, like old Virginia herself. There were various conflicting opinions about what the Union was, and it was time to dispel some of the heresies on the subject. Never before had 13 communities of 3 million of people with diverse interests, institutions, and governments flown together in such a manner. Never before had a nation been born in a day. He saw the hand of God in it, in promoting the glory of his name. He saw in it the fruition of liberty without a license, a people overthrowing crowns and bringing radiance into the habitations of cruelty of the whole earth. The nation had never assailed the constitutional rights of a state, but a party had always existed ready to encroach in the interest of state rights. That dogma had gone with the war forever. He likened the Democrat to the man Christian saw in the allegory of Bunyan, with a mock rake in his hand, raking up the dust and straw of state rights and refusing the crown of nationality, which one above held forth to him. The act of the 13 original states in calling the new nation the United States told the whole story. Nationality meant then the sovereignty over everything which in the judgment of the nation was of national import. If sovereignty was not there, it was nowhere. Even in that semblance of nationality, the first confederation, this principle was recognized, but with such restrictions that it could not exist for more than 10 years. The present Constitution was made for no other reason than that nationality had been so smothered under restrictions that it could not exist. That Constitution conferred full power to protect nationality against encroachments by the state. The present attacks of advocates of state rights should be met in the spirit of comprehension and unyielding nationality. No new insurrection could arise from an adherence to the doctrine of nationality, whatever came from the doctrine of state rights. Mr. Drake went on to argue that the governments of the southern states, the only state governments the nation had ever recognized, having been overthrown by rebels and others who aided the rebellion, had no legal validity, that the people of these states were without any government whatever at the downfall of the rebellion, and that those who had engaged in rebellion had no right to force others to replace them. No senator would claim that right for them if no question of political power was before the country. The controversy was to be laid at the door of the Democratic Party, and you know what they did with it. Knowing that those states were Democratic when they went into the war and would be Democratic now if allowed to reconstruct themselves, the party desired to gain 6 or 7 electoral votes for president and vice president, which would be a pretty fair stock in trade for the reconstructed democracy to start with. So we already know it went on. Then it speaks of let alone to re-enslave the Negro and set up a white man's government. I'll let you go on and read this, brothers and sisters. That's even if you do, though, because again, y'all are just stepping over all of this. Once again, the Constitution conferred full power to protect nationality. The present Constitution was made for no other reason than that nationality had been so smothered under restriction that it could not exist.